Alrighty, everybody knows it's about that time. Hey everybody, Steve here, the retired hobby tech guy, and today we're coming to you live from Korea. Yes, American expat, retired in Korea, and we're going to be talking about the frozen ARCo. Sounds like some type of Marvel movie, arc reactor, something, the next level generation. Well, it's an FDM printer. And it comes from the company that you might have heard that's not into FDM printing. Phrozen is actually more known for their resin printers and their resin than their FDM printers. Matter of fact, before this, they didn't even have an FDM printer. They were solely concentrated on resin and resin 3D printers, and yeah, that's what they were known for. So with that, I was kind of surprised when last year, this is old news, give you a little bit of background on what's going on. They came out last year talking about, hey, we're going to do an FDM printer and it's going to be cool, it's going to be fast, it's going to have a lot of acceleration, some bells and whistles. Obviously, they were trying to jump into the mix with the big dog, Bamboo Labs, and their X1, the X1C, and whatever their machines are at. They're the big ones to go after, besides Prusa. So Phrozen decides to get into the FDM mix. And so, what was it, like February? I think it was February last year that they started doing a Kickstarter. We'll check it out to see how that came about. But yeah, it was quite an interesting little thing because it was like, ooh, Kickstarter, that seems to be the vehicle to get hype for a lot of companies. I don't knock that. Smaller, originally Kickstarter was for, the small business, the mom and pops and, the guy in his garage type of thing. And now big businesses, big FDM and resin printing and other companies have jumped on Kickstarter as a viable pathway to get their products funded and get, to see how much hype they have. So basically the Kickstarter is you have a bunch of people that say you've got, 2,000 people that are interested in buying your whatsy thing that you have on Kickstarter. Well, from that, and you have people that, are putting money down for it, and then you can say, okay, well, now we can start doing some planning, and we can start looking at the financing, and if we need 2,000 of these, we need to order this and this and this, and they can kind of do a determination of how much profit they can make. Especially with the Kickstarter, they can give it as a discount, and that's the hook. That's the hook in which people are drawn to it. They put the specs out there and they say, hey, this is this is that. Look how great it is. It's max acceleration, max speed, which nobody prints at max acceleration or max speed on their FDM printer. It just doesn't happen. It's kind of like the top speed on a freeway or top speed on your car. You can go up to 200 miles an hour. But yeah, your daily driver, you're not going to do that. And even if you get on the highway, you're going to be going about 65, 70 miles an hour, 75, maybe 80-ish. You can push it a little bit, maybe 125%, kind of like the K2 Plus that I ended up having. It has a ultra fast setting that you can go 125% of normal, and I've gotten good results with that. Now, by the way, if you want to buy a K2 Plus, you can look in the description box. There's a link. You can use that. That'll throw me a couple pennies. No one has so far, so I don't really care. But it's a good machine for me, so I figured I'd throw that in there. The other thing you could do before we get deep into this is to like and subscribe to the channel. So I'm going to get a drink. You like and subscribe. We'll get back to it. Done? Good? Ring the bell? All that? All right, good to go. So give yourself a star for that. We're going to jump right into this, and we're going to see this because this popped up, like I said, around February, March, April was the time frame of the Kickstarter, and we'll take a look at that. They partnered or sliced.
This is ARCo, the new FDM 3D printer from Phrozen.
And it ends up, it's a 300 by 300 build area. This is from Slice Engineering. It's using Clipper, which is open source, which is another reason why they jumped on that. They have a multi-color and multi-material system that they have, which is pretty nice. Looks pretty solid, looks pretty good. And we've got, of course, we've got the commercials on YouTube. So, yeah. CNC Revolution, yeah, whatever. Okay. 100,000 customers from all around the world in South Korea, which I'm in South Korea. And beyond, they're offering their Gamma Master nozzle on the ARCo, and they also have a CHT nozzle as well, so you can do abrasives. Here's a closer look at what we see with this thing, and heated bed, all of that good stuff. Nothing really spectacular or out of the ordinary. They're pretty happy about being in conjunction with Phrozen, doing their first FDM printer, so there's going to be some bumps in the road. When I first heard about this, and especially when I heard that they were going to do a Kickstarter, it ends up, it's like, yeah, this is going to have some bumps in the road because they've never done it before. So, yeah, talking about it's 50 pounds with the unshielded or the one that is open frame. They're going to have a frame. Of course, that's the one on the left-hand side that you see there. And then their multi-material system, which comes down. They've got a real long Bowden tube going down. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that comes into play. So, and then they do this kind of weird comparison of like this right here, where it kind of shows theirs, and then this one on the right hand side is somehow a competitor, and it seems like it's on the most rickety folding table ever. So yeah, a little bit of flair, you know, a little bit of hype. It's claiming 600 millimeters per second with 30,000 for acceleration, which is kind of an interesting claim because a lot of printers today are about 20,000 and their max is about 600, you know, 600 or 700. But again, your top speed, you're not going to be doing that as a daily driver. You know, it talks about a little bit of the information on this, and yeah, they've got some cool stuff. They got a display screen. The one thing that they did get right, if you look on the front of the machine, is you have your display screen, and then down here you've got your USB connector. Thumbs up to Phrozen for putting the USB on the front of the machine where it should be. Seriously, it took a non-FDM printing company to put the USB on the front. But don't get too excited, because when we go around, you know, as exciting as that is, you look for the power switch, and the power switch is on the back. Seriously, when is somebody going to put the power switch and the USB switch right in the front where it's easy to reach? You don't have to do the reach around thing. I just don't get it. And I know some people are going to say, "Oh, well, it's about saving money. I'll pay an extra $2 for it. You know, tag that on there, put it on the front." So it goes through there, talks about their system, and it has a new extruder with like 18 millimeter gears, which is kind of interesting. It's supposed to go very fast. The flow rate on this is supposed to be like 50, a flow rate of 50. Which usually what you end up seeing on other machines is basically 25, 30, maybe 35. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. And they're talking about their new head there that is supposed to have more flow, and that's why it's able to go faster. The interesting thing is that to go fast, it's not that the gantry is slow, it's that your flow rate is slow and you're limited by that. So if their claims of being able to get up to 50 are true, realize that's probably not going to be your daily driver flow rate, but I'm expecting probably more in line with about 35, I'd probably say 40. You could probably squeak 40 out of the filament that's going through there, depending on the filament and of course if you calibrate it. So some other things that it talks about, firmware, Chroma Kit, which is your MCFS or your multi-material system, whichever you want to see. That purge block is huge. Did you see that purge block? Oh my gosh, that was like a brick. Look at that. That is a huge brick. The interesting thing is that I've already seen some videos where they're talking about with their engineers and saying that, you know what, the purge block, yes, it is It is a big brick, and they're already working on reducing that. And again, this was a while back. This video was put out in March 27th of 2024. So yeah, they're still kind of in the infancy. They're bringing this out as saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. And I think this was part of their Kickstarter, because I think that started in February of 2024. Just to give you a clue, it's July 2025, and they're still kind of working on this stuff. And it was supposed to be delivered in 2024, according to the Kickstarter, but they've had some setbacks. So yeah, that's kind of where we end up there. Matter of fact, here it is, where he's talking about how the purge block is massive. You could throw that and kill somebody with that purge block, but they're going to be able to take that down and reduce the size by 40%. Stage 1, stage 2, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, a lot of interesting things. They're working on the purge and all that. And again, all of that is going to be programming and firmware, things like that. The only concerns I have is this massive PTFE tube. As the gantry goes up and the head goes up and down and back and forth and up and whatever, that's a long PTFE tube. And if we zoom into right in there, we don't see like a big support for that PTFE tube into that, kind of like the K2 Plus. That bend in there can cause some problems with the connector, and so there's some aftermarket stuff that you can do. So yeah, that might be something to look at. But other than that, cable chain, you look at some of the other stuff that it's got on there. It talks about their Kickstarter program, which is what we're going to look at next. Now, like I said, it ended up that this was going to be in 2024. This was going to be delivered. And then I think I remember reading 3 articles where it's talking about, hey, hold up, we got to stop. And I think it was a combination of the printer and their chroma kit, their multi-material system, CFS, whatever you want to call it, multicolor system. They had like 2 or 3 setbacks that kind of pushed everything. And even after the Kickstarter, there was a little bit of hesitancy amongst the backers and the commenters. And they're like, hey, is this really going to happen? Now, that would bug me. And I was like, I don't know about this, because it's a company that does resin printing. And they're jumping into FDM. So I kind of knew that there was going to be some bumps in the road. I knew there was going to be some hurdles, and I thought, yeah, maybe there'll be a setback. But there was like 2 or 3 setbacks with the printer itself, with the multi-material system, and yeah, so it's been an interesting little thing. What we'll take a look at now is their Kickstarter, and there it is: larger, faster, more colors. And for those of you who don't know, this comes in a build area of 300 cubed, which is bigger than the normal bamboo one, which is 256 cube. But when you have other printers that got to market quicker, and you have things like the K2 Plus that came out that is 350 cubed, and now they have like the K2 Pro and the other one, still I think we're getting other printers that are getting bigger as well. So is it late to the party? Kind of. And I think because they were so new to the market and they were rushing a little bit, that they didn't expect things to happen, and they did. And so this has pushed it back, so they kind of lost some of the hype. And some people were really concerned about this. I know there were some YouTubers, matter of fact, YouTubers that, one in particular, I forget his name. He's like Nordic or something like that. Really good YouTuber. I should have had his name down. But he did a whole video where basically he's like, no, don't buy it, don't do it. The Kickstarter, bad, all this stuff. And, that definitely turned some heads. And, with what was going on, I didn't know if Frozen was going to be committed to this. So I didn't do a video on it because I was doing other stuff. And honestly, it's just like, I didn't expect them to come to market with this thing. And when I heard that they had so many problems, I was like, I'll just, if something happens, we'll just deal with it later. And that's what we're doing now. We're dealing with it. So yeah, it ends up that it had some pretty impressive specs. And so when we look at their Kickstarter program, it had 1,413 backers for $1.4 million to bring the budget to life. This is as of June, as we can see, June 25th. And that's a significant amount of money. And again, they're able to take that and, 600 millimeters per second for speed. Again, the acceleration is like 30,000, but then there was other information that said it was going to be 40,000. There's other information that said it's going to be 700 millimeters per second for speed. So a lot of flexibility in regards to the specs was coming down here. So larger, faster. We look at, again, the build volume, the speed, acceleration was 30,000 at this, 120 Celsius for the bed, multicolor printing, clipper, auto leveling, which is like uber standard these days, 30 core XY gantry, which is, what is it? I think it's like 22 kilos, which is around 50 some odd pounds. So that's kind of a beefy little rig that you got there. So it's had some issues, and they've had some pictures of their multi-material earlier on, and it was like, you guys need to work on that. You need to work on the algorithms and the math and the whole 9 yards. So, and they've been doing that. They can do 4 colors, offering up to 16 colors in the future, but right now they're just doing the 4 colors. Built-in sensors, higher integration with the chroma kit, and buffer boast higher integrity compared to other brands, ensuring stable feeding in and out. And I think that's because of the 18 millimeter gears that they have. So we'll see if that works out, if that's the case. Dual material printing. 2 different materials can be printed simultaneously, such as PLA and PETG. We will offer more possible combination lists in the future. Does this mean that they're going to have a dual head printer? The ones I've seen on the internet have a single head, so I'm not sure if they scrap that because they're a little too eager and long in the tooth. Is kind of like, yeah, let's go for it, and then they kind of had to ratchet back a little bit. I think that's what ended up happening. They kind of bit off more than they could chew. Automatic refill, seamless switches to the second roll of the same color when depleted, kind of similar to what others, nothing really groundbreaking there. Desiccant included. Whoop-de-doo. That's kind of normal. I don't know why you would put that on there unless you're kind of reaching for, we give you desiccant, as if no other company gives you desiccant in their CFS or their multi-material system. As far as I know, every multi-material system comes with some form of desiccant. So, I don't know what to tell you. Continue on. It'll be able to print with a bunch of other stuff. They're coming out with a frame or an enclosure for this thing as well. It's talking about the max speed for this is 600 millimeters per second. Let's make this bigger so you can read it. Other 3D printers, max of 250 millimeters per second, which I find this a little bit disingenuous, because if you're going to compare apples to apples and you're competing against, Bamboo and Prusa and other well-known companies, their max speed is not 250. That's kind of like daily driver speed. 250, 300. Maybe you could push it a little bit more. So really, in reality, you're not going to go 600 millimeters per second. Your daily driver is probably going to be around 300, which is kind of the same for most other printers. So comparing the max speed, I don't know of a 3D printer that has a max speed of 250. So I'm not really sure where we're getting this, and unfortunately we've seen this with some other Chinese companies to where they'll compare, like the Thinker, the X400 by ARCo, and what they ended up doing was comparing their machine, which was a enclosed machine, with an open gantry machine. It was comparing apples to rocks, and it was just like, I kind of see the similar type of thing. Oh, and by the way, the X400 is extinct, basically. We haven't seen anything since the Kickstarter quit. So, the whole big thing about it being print farms is, I think it was all hype, like I called it. So we'll continue on with this, talking about printing a benchy in 20 minutes. Whoop-de-doo. It's not anything really crazy with that. They just show you supposedly this direct extrusion path technology coupled with a high-speed extruder minimizes the distance between the extruder gears and the hot end, so it kind of puts that closer together, combined with a heating nozzle capable of 300 Celsius, which Slice Engineering is a part of that, and they also have a CHT nozzle, and they have a regular nozzle as well, and the Gamma Master from Slice. So you can do some pretty good stuff. Shorter filament extrusion times, faster response speeds, and accelerated printing speeds for flexible materials. And again, that remains to be seen. There have been some videos where they print like TPU and some other stuff, like, oh, just what are the odds? Here it is. Printed with TPU filament, kind of looks good. It's kind of hard because the pictures are, I would expect a little bit better pictures, but, it's kind of good that it'll print TPU. How well and what is the efficiency, and are there any problems? Is this like 2 out of 3, or are you printing TPU 100% of the time with maybe 1 or 2% failure rates? That remains to be seen as well. So, and there it talks about their, showing their little printing the TPU, and it does the calibration, blah blah blah. Okay, and then we'll start getting. And yeah, don't get too excited. It's blazing hot fast. But it's printing it. So that's kind of a good thing. Continued on, improved quality, 18 millimeter gears that we're talking about, a 9.5 to 1 ratio, precise control over filament feeding. Honestly, I don't know if 18 millimeters gears is better or worse, or if it's just 6 of one and half dozen of the other. Looks like it's got some pretty good results. I would say, I don't know if that's 0.2 or that 0.16 millimeters. I'm not sure. It's got some pretty decent lines on there. It's hard to say. I wish they would put that information down. Looks like it's got some good details on some of this stuff, though. It would be good to see like in different colors, because white just kind of washes everything out. Solid, stable printing, minimize shaking and alignment. And again, here's the thing of their machine, which is set in stone and doesn't move except for the print head. And then they show this thing next to it, which is like somebody printing during an earthquake in a high-rise in Japan. I'm not sure. And magically, the PEI plate on the one on the right there is just kind of like, it's floating in midair. And so I don't even think this is a real machine, because nothing's connected up there. Again, I find this problematic when you do such things and you try to do a comparison between yours, look at ours, it's rock solid, and then you throw up obviously an animation of a machine that isn't a stationary bed. You're comparing apples and oranges, and again, when we take a look at this, stable stationary bed, thickened stands, precise XY axis control. Where over here you have a shaking slinger bed. Actually, it's a bed slinger. Unstable stands, less control on extruder movement. Well, nothing's connected in this animation, and it's moving like it's in an earthquake. So yeah, there would be unstable and it would be shaking. I really hate stuff like this when they do stuff like this. It's just so disingenuous, because you're trying to get a lot of hype out of your machine by comparing it to something that isn't even real. And why would you compare a Core XY machine with a bed slinger? It's apples and oranges. It's two totally different things. And especially when you do an animation where let me see if we could zoom in here. That's as much as I go. But yeah, it's an animation. Nothing is even connected there, and nothing's connected there. It's all kind of, the bed is, this must be a bed slinger from the future that is operating, and gravity, it doesn't come into play because you're using magnets to hold the PEI. See what I mean? It's just stupid. I I find it really disingenuous with companies go so far as to compare apples and oranges and to say, look how better ours is, when they're not the same at all. Low center of gravity. Yeah, thank you, Captain Obvious. Auto leveling, 25 points. Yeah, we got that. Smoother printing experience. They have their own Picks Up FDM slicer, but don't worry because you can also use ARCo slicer as well. So yeah, and they have a little community like everybody else has got a community and trying to grow that. Open source freedom. They're real big on that. So that's one thing that they can claim against Bamboo is that they're open source and they're not going to take your information and sell it to the Chinese government or give it to the Chinese government because the government says, give me the information. Any Chinese company that has information that the government needs or wants for whatever reason, they have to hand it over. So yeah, there's that. But with that said, most of our FDM printers come from China, unless you're like Prusa. And there's like maybe 1 or 2 different companies in the United States. Plug and play, they claim that you'll unbox and install within 10 or 15 minutes. No manual assembly required. Simply plug in and play. Did they have 2 versions of this? To where it's already assembled? Or do you have the option to buy an unassembled version and an assembled version? I'm not sure. But again, this is the Kickstarter, and a few things have changed over time. 5-inch screen, whoop-de-doo, PEI plate. It's supposed to be dual-sided, replaceable all-metal nozzle. Again, Slice Engineering has their little thing on there. And yeah, there it is, Gamma Master nozzle, which is supposed to be pretty good. We'll see how that goes. They're pretty excited about that. All backers will receive a Gamma Master nozzle available for printing, various from PLA to glass fiber. So yeah, that's pretty good. They do hot ends and all that stuff, a U.S. company. So yeah, they're pretty happy to be going along with this. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. This is a beta unit. Of course, a lot of things will change between, this is way back in 2024, over a year ago. So yeah, there's been a lot of different things, a lot of different, and unfortunately I didn't back this in any way, shape, or form, so I can't see the updates for backers only. But when we look at some of the comments, and let's take a look at that, because that's a little interesting. They're still hanging in there. Frozen is still there. Attention, we have exciting news to share with you. This was over a year ago. We'll provide you with the most up-to-date information, and they got some videos and stuff you could download and whatever. And yeah, I replied to your message, check your inbox, whatever, Frozen Creator, blah, blah, blah. When is delivery scheduled? Even if Frozen finally sticks it the 3rd time, because again, there were some hurdles that they had to jump, revised delivery schedule and finally delivers in April of 2025, it's very late to the party. So isn't it interesting that I made a little late to the party, and the comment that we end up seeing here, and this is the first time looking at these comments, says it's very late to the party. I'm guessing delaying the production of what is essentially an industrial manufactured Boron 2.4 clone for 12 months kind of closed the window of opportunity. It sounds, in this regard, Frozen comment about the industry innovation slowing sounds like famous last words. I've reached out about the contact the creator about getting a refund. I've yet to hear back. I understand you're busy, but I'd like to know in particular, blah, blah, blah. 2 months ago, received. Now, again, this is from last year, so it's not 2 months ago. Nothing, no update. So when's ARCo getting shipped? Has anyone started receiving their printer? Today, this is June, or maybe this is 16 days ago, 3 months ago. Oh, this is recent. 22 June. So this is June this year. No update on shipping. What's going on? 16 days ago, I think nobody got the printer. I think there is one video that I saw that has it. It was like somebody from like New Zealand or Australia or something like that. Wasn't really impressed because they didn't do like a deep dive review. It's just like, dude and his wife set it up and they print a benchy and yeah, it worked. That was it. Last message I get was linked to the slicer software, but the software is not usable. That's not good. 15 days ago, is the company still delivering their resin printers? Anyone in the U.S. get their printer delivery? In the Facebook group, someone in Asia got the printer, but I guess it is part of a scam. You will not receive this printer. The frozen people, which were sometimes answering here and at Facebook, are now completely quiet. Same at the Chaos Projects at Kokoni and Starfield. Suddenly, no answer anymore. And if you would get this printer, you paid too much money. This printer is not much better than the Anycubic Cobra for $549. And it should be noted that the retail price of this is about $770, $780. So yeah, 15 days ago, emailed them yesterday for the site, and this is what we get. This is Hugh from Frozen. Thanks for reaching out. We understand your concerns. Shipping dates, we're currently shipping based on regions and backer tier origins. Super early bird, and then standard. So yeah, that makes sense. Shipments for super early bird backers have already left our facility in batches and are now on their way to regional warehouses. Once they arrive, then our logistics partners will take over the final delivery. So when we're looking at SEA, whatever that is, in New Zealand, arrivals begin in May, which is actually, I think that's the guy that got it in New Zealand. It's an elderly couple, and they got it. And again, I wish it was a better review. U.S. begins in July, so it's July now. Australia, arrival begins in August. So yeah, the dude was from New Zealand. For early backers, we expect orders to be completed in batches. As for the chroma, refill, filaments, and pentashield, the shipping will begin in June of this year. Again, this is more than probably, it was like March, April, May, June. So, 12, 14 months, 15 months, somewhere. We continue to share the latest updates on the launch group, cancel and refund and whatever, restocking or transaction fees. So there's that going on. And that must be the guy that got it. And if we take a look at this, it'll let you know that, yeah, jellyfish lighting, permanent solution for blah, 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 Christmas. Yeah, this is the guy that did it. And you go through, and it's just kind of like, there it is, and, it came in one piece, I guess, we have there. You got to put in the spool holder and some stuff like that, so there's very minor and minimal stuff. So you get some tools, and then, the camera works a little rough sometimes, it's out of focus. But that looks like a solid machine. I mean, it's not anything crazy and high speed. I mean, it's just kind of an industrial looking type of machine. And it goes through startup, touchscreen, all of that. And, they put some more screws in and goes through the calibration test, and you get to see the picture of the guy there and whatever. So, yeah, kind of interesting. Not really much interesting with that. But yeah, he's from New Zealand, and he ended up getting that. Again, not a lot of good information to glean from that. So what I ended up doing is to find out and to see, well, if these are indeed being sent out, and that was the first. I'm surprised. Where are the influencers? Where are the people reviewing this stuff? I don't know. I was kind of searching. It's like, well, besides the Slice Engineering guy, we just haven't seen any, which is odd for a company that does Kickstarter or comes out with a new machine. Usually when they get close to a reveal for the retail product, they'll send an early product to influencers to do the reviews and say, hey, help them work out with some final issues, throw it out there and say, hey, this is what we got going on, give them thumbs up, thumbs down, or maybe so. Very, very kind of interesting stuff. So I decided to look and see, well, what are we seeing in regards to the specifications? So with that, and it's 700. Let's just dip on over here because they do have it on their webpage. $779 for a 300 cube machine, fast, 40,000 acceleration. So that's gone up from 30,000, and then So it talks about Core XY. It's got kind of a cool enclosure. That's going to be about $170 later on. Gravi Core XY extra structure, stability, okay, whatever. Patented extrusion for faster, cleaner swaps of filament. Okay, we got that. The 3 different nozzles, standard Bondtech CHT nozzle, that's good. And then that slice engineering. So, and this, notice here, it talks about, and it says, standard PLA and PETG, good thermal conductivity, pretty good. The Bondtech comes up, and they have that tri-flow channel thing, which looks really interesting. And then from renowned Bondtech, which they're coming out with that IDX thing with the, that looks wonderful. And enables the ARCo to achieve flow rates of up to 50 millimeters cube per second. So 50, that's pretty impressive. So if that's the top flow that they can get, I'm sure it's going to have to back down. So I'm thinking maybe 40, because usually what you'll end up seeing, maybe 45 at the most. That would be an accomplishment for that. And then the slice engineering is a excellent wear resistance, long-lasting, Florida-based slice engineering, copper-based core ensures sufficient thermal conductivity for tough engineering-grade filaments. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So other than that, this is an interesting thing. So I don't know if people saw this, but when I was browsing this, and efficient filament switching with 4 filament feed tubes, that is actually a good idea. So in other words, you have 4 feed tubes going to the head. So no longer do you have to do like with the K2 Plus, where you have to pull back all of that filament to get back to the CFS and then put another one and have it travel down, and it takes so much time. All of those, I think what they end up doing is the filament goes right to the head and it hits a sensor, filament sensor, and let's say it takes out the yellow, and then as soon as it clears that sensor, then it can send the other one in, so you're not wasting a lot of time. So that's actually a very, very good idea. It says it's up to 50% faster than a regular 4-in-1 system. So if that works, that's hats off to ARCo and Phrozen for doing this with the ARCo. The premium cover stand looks like it's going to be acrylic, little frame stuff. It's got a door, the little top that you can throw on there, because again, you have that PTFE tube on the top there. You got to have some room for that, and then you can put your system on top. And that comes out to $170 if I'm not. Let's click that and see what it ends up. I think it was $170. And it's not even on their way. Oh, there it is. Yes, it is. I lied. The Pentashield enclosure, $170, so you're getting 4 sides and a top. And if we can kind of see some of the pictures there, looks pretty good. Front, 3/4, that'll all come in shipping. Oh, it's got a little vent action there, which is good. I like that. And yeah, that's what it is. Sturdy, robust metal frame, all the whoosies and the whatsies. The other thing I wanted to take a look at as far as the specs, because usually once you get a user manual that is distributed out to the users and you can download it, that usually has the most updated specs on the machine. So we're going to take a look at that, and here it is. This is the Phrozen ARCo. Let's see if we can make this just a tad bigger. And this is their user manual. So typical user manual, just kind of goes through, shows you safety precautions, don't put your hand where it doesn't belong, blah, blah, blah. We end up seeing some of the things we have here, like an interior light strip, which is a strip of LED lights, which is good. One could be enough. I don't know, it depends. Anything's got to be better than the K2 Plus light strip with the little 6 things that they had in there. That was a little rough. Heated bed, USB port on the front, power on the back, a little webcam thing there, magnetic building plate. Okay, nothing terribly outstanding there. Power switch in the back, chroma key port. Okay, filament inlet. I wish there was a little bit of more material there to hold the PTF tube so that it wouldn't bend over. Kind of like with the K2 Plus, had problems with that, so there's an aftermarket thing that you can print out. Filament clip lever, so it's not automatic for cutting your filament, or maybe it is. That'll be interesting to see. Warranty card, picks up card, so they have their own slicer, but you can use ARCo, power accessories, tubes, wrenches, PTF tubes, PLA, 38 grams. Seriously? Seriously? 38 grams, that's all they're giving you? Really? For $780, you're getting the machine and 38 grams of filament. Come on, Frozen. Seriously, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to take a look at these specs here and see if we can find some good information. So it's a Core XY, multicolor compatible with the Chroma Kit, 300 cubed, aluminum case, yes, 22 kilograms, so about 50 some odd pounds. Operating temperature, you can see there, -5 to 45, or 23 degrees to 113. Max printing, what? You see that right there? That, boom. Max printing is 1,000 millimeters per second? No. Seriously? No. Obviously, that's on a test piece, but even at 1,000, how is your flow rate going to do that? I find that hard to believe. I really find that hard to believe. 1,000 millimeters a second for the max print speed. So if you do that little calibration for speed, you can get up, and of course you're not going to get that speed on any normal print that you're going to do. You're going to get 1,000. I'm just going to say I think they're reaching a little bit. Just maximum acceleration 40,000. Makes me wonder. Maximum flow volume 50 with a CHT nozzle. I still don't think that's enough flow to get 1,000. I just don't know. Let's go over here to some of the other stuff. 0.4 nozzle, average filament, blah, 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 PLA, PETG, ABS, ASA, PET, PBA, TPU, not compatible with the Chroma Kit, so remember that. And then the PA, PC, supported with specialized nozzle installed, carbon fiber, glass fiber, supported with specialized nozzle. So let's see the other stuff we have. Built-in camera, 720p, 150. It's kind of normal. Material breakdown supported. Printing after power outage is supported. Auto leveling, touch display, Wi-Fi. I didn't notice if there was an Ethernet. I don't think there is. Software, yeah, connectivity is Wi-Fi and USB, so they don't have Ethernet. So for 700, you should have thrown in some Ethernet there, Mr. Frozen. Printing format, G-code, power, blah, blah, blah. 100 to 240. So I didn't notice if the power rated 900. That's decent. That's good. That's not bad. So it talks about the unboxing stuff, which is very minimal indeed. It doesn't look bad at all. And then talking about firmware update and so on and so forth. But yeah, that claim for that 1,000 print speed, that is maximum printing speed 1,000. Seriously, we're going to go with 1,000? I want to see a reviewer do 1,000. I want to see that. Even if you're not going to get 1,000 in your daily driver printing. It's just not something that's going to happen. But I would like to see the test where it shows that you can get 1,000. And I'd like to see the flow rate as well. That would be interesting as well. So, are they late to the party? I think they are in some ways. I think Frozen is a little bit late, so we'll see what happens with that. And again, the one reviewer that we saw that was from New Zealand doesn't look like he's going to be doing any calibration of filament. It doesn't like he's going to run any flow tests or anything like that, the max speed to verify any of this stuff. It's just kind of like, yeah, he bought it or he got it, either one. And whether it was given to him, it doesn't say. I can't remember because it was just didn't hold my attention at all. So we'll see what happens. But will this get into the hands of influencers? Probably not, because usually you do that before they're released for retail. And, it's usually you do your Kickstarters, you got some influencers, that drums up more support. But again, the Kickstarter was over a year ago, 14, 15 months ago? So, and we didn't really see anything there. So I kind of wrote this thing off. So I'm surprised that it actually made it into the wild. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing pops out. But that's what we end up having. So Frozen, late to the party, I think, not a lot of updates except for the one talking about, hey, there is a shipping schedule. They're woefully behind from their original plan of what they wanted to do last year, but they stuck to it. So there's that. Their resin printers are pretty good. They do pretty well. And, boom. I don't know. Like the Mighty 8K and things like that. We'll see how that goes. I think they're a little late to the party, as some other people had pointed out. Frozen is, again, a resin printing company. They jumped in with Kickstarter, supposed to be delivered last year. There was a series of setbacks, so they weren't able to do that. And now it's 2025. We're talking about it's July. So, and the Kickstarter was started in February for 45 days. Yeah, they're a little bit behind the power curve. They're a little late to the party. And with some of the specs of where they claim a top speed of 1,000 millimeters for speed a second, color me doubtful. I find that highly suspect. But we'll see. It'll be interesting when you see claims like this. And to see it out in the wild, I'm kind of impressed that they kept at it. Unlike the ARCo and the X400, which I have videos on that, and I knew that was going to be a cash grab, a Kickstarter cash grab that just ended in failure. We don't see anything on those, and those are supposedly out in the wild. But there was only like 300 backers on that, and since we don't see any in the wild, that makes me wonder if those 300 backers were actually real backers. We did show where a number of those backers just kind of backed out, and so it makes me wonder if the remaining backers, was it ARCo who backed their own products? I don't know, to try to build up some hype? I don't know. So the good thing is that Frozen got this out, and the guy in Australia got it, and he made a video and threw it out there. It is what it is. So I'm kind of glad that Frozen stuck to their guns and kept working on this to get this to market. So, thumbs up for that, even though it's a year late. But then again, I kind of expected that, as them being a resin printer company and not an FDM, and this is their first FDM. So yeah, a lot of hurdles. I kind of expected that. I didn't know if they were going to make it, so it's kind of good that they did. So with that, kind of some interesting information, and what we'll end up doing is we'll close this video out on the ARCo, and there it is. A little late to the party. Yeah, I think so. Just a hair late. It looks like maybe if they came out a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, this would be a good printer. But the problem is that this being their first FDM printer, Frozen had to back everything up. Everything was pushed back, and then other companies came to the market. You had the K1C, which is rough from Creality, the K2 Plus, which I really enjoy. You had companies like Prusa and the Core One, and then you have all these other companies, Elegoo and the Centauri, and other ones that the prices have gone down. Huge drops in price. Even though we have this Terraform thing, even the K2 Plus, when I checked on Creality's site, even despite the tariffs, they have lowered the prices on those things. So, a lot of stuff, the prices are coming down because they'd rather eat a little bit of that tariff money and still make some money and get the product off the shelf than not being paid at all. So, yeah, kind of interesting what we end up seeing with this. So, what do you all think of the Frozen ARCo and the chroma kit and the enclosure kit? Do you think it's a little late to the party? Do you believe the claim that we saw in their manual, the user manual, of 1,000 millimeters per second for speed and 40,000 for acceleration? You know, like 50 for flow rate? I don't know. That's gonna be might be exaggerating just a hair, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But with that being said, we're going to close out this video. This isn't the normal time that I do it because I'm here in Korea and now it's like 10:20 at night. So whatever it is in the United States, I'm not sure. But usually I stream in the mornings, which is, I don't know, whatever it is, the day yesterday in the States. So, but I just wanted to get this video out there. If you want to contact me, there is the official theverylife@gmail.com. Questions, tips, suggestions, whatever it is. I do FDM printing, resin printing, I do miniature painting. I'm also a retired expat here in Korea, so I get a lot of questions about that as well. The other thing the best thing that you can do for me, like and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. And then there are those in the scrolling ticker who have gone the extra mile and they have bought me a coffee. So much respect for all of those people down there who have bought me coffees, and I buy my favorite influencers coffees. So it's kind of just spreading the wealth around. And if you do that, that's cool too. So we're going to leave this at the end of the video. And again, if you got questions, I 100% answer all my emails. Might take me a day or two, but you can, even if you just want to say hi or talk about retirement or whatever it is. We're all crazy in this hobby, and we're all part of this big dysfunctional family. So with that said, we will see you on the next video. Peace. Yeah, 1,000 millimeters per second.